Hi, everyone. We're going to let people get into the webinar before we kick it off. So give it just a minute or two.
Hola a todos, vamos a esperar unos momentitos o dos para que ingresen las demás personas antes de comenzar.
Okay, well, I'm going to have us get started because I know we have a lot to cover. Really excited to welcome everyone to Summer EBT 101, How to Support Families in Summer 2024. Really looking forward to getting into the information here and hearing your questions as well. I do want to move us to housekeeping because I know some folks are joining that are looking for Spanish interpretation of our webinar. And so just wanted to make sure folks could see that. So if you are looking for interpretation, you can click on the icon. It's circled here. There's a picture here for interpretation, and you can select Spanish.
Hola a todos, a todas y a todos. Buenos días, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Valentina y estoy aquí por parte de Community Language Cooperative y estoy aquí por ofrecerles y garantizar su compromiso con la justicia del lenguaje. La justicia del lenguaje es un tipo de interpretación simultánea que busca crear espacios en los que no dominen ningún idioma, espacios en los que todos puedan participar en el idioma de su corazón. Para lograr este objetivo vamos a utilizar la función de interpretación de Zoom. Lo que verán en un par de minutitos es que aparecerá un nuevo botón que parece un globo terráqueo en la barra inferior de su pantalla. En la misma barra donde ahorita tienen los botones para el micrófono, para el video, para el chat, etc. Va a estar hacia su mano derecha. Cuando ven este botoncito aparecer en la barra, hagan clic en él y seleccionen inglés o español como el idioma en el que desean escuchar y el idioma en el que desean participar. Si usted está en esta sesión por medio de una tableta o de un teléfono, encontrará las mismas opciones para la interpretación haciendo clic en el botón que tiene 3 puntitos en la esquina inferior derecha de su pantalla. Ese botoncito dice More o Más. Hi everyone, and good afternoon, good morning. My name is Valentina, and I'm here on behalf of Community Language Cooperative, and I'm here to provide and guarantee your commitment to language justice. Language justice is a type of simultaneous interpretation that seeks to create spaces in which no one language is dominant, spaces in which everyone can participate in the language of their heart. So to achieve this objective, we will be using Zoom's interpretation feature. And as you can see on the slide right here, what you will see in a couple of minutes is that a new little button that looks like a globe will appear on the bottom bar of your screen. On that same bar where you currently have the buttons for the microphone, for the video, for the chat, etc. It'll be towards your right hand. Once you see this new little button come up, go ahead and click on it and select either English or Spanish as both the language that you will be listening into and speaking into. If you are joining the meeting on a phone or on a tablet, you will find the same options for interpretation by clicking on the button with the 3 little dots on the lower right-hand corner of your screen.
All right. Thank you so much, Valentina. Is there anything else to share out? Okay. Hannah, it looks like Valentina is requesting to end interpretation. So just to be able to say.
Great, thank you. Yes, just a quick reminder for those of you that do prefer to use English during this meeting, Spanish is 20 to 25% longer than English, so please be aware of your speed. And if you have any questions or any issues whatsoever with this technology, please let the whole group know by means of the chat box. Un breve recordatorio es que la interpretación es simultánea, entonces cuando participe mantenga un ritmo de conversación para que yo pueda comunicar su mensaje completo en el otro idioma. Si tiene alguna pregunta o algún problema con esta tecnología, por favor comuníqueselo al grupo completo a través del chat para que lo podamos resolver en conjunto. Muchas gracias por tenerme por acá. Ahora sí vamos a volver a activar los canales de interpretación. Thank you so much for having me here. We can go ahead and restart the interpretation channels.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Valentina. And as a reminder for folks joining, there's now the option to click for interpretation. As you'll see in the slide here, there's an icon to do that, and you'll be able to get simultaneous interpretation. All right. So the other things we wanted to talk through before we kick off our webinar is if you have any issues, please use the chat box to let us know to get you some help. And we're going to record this webinar and we'll email that out to everyone who registered along with the slide deck today. And then if you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to ask them. And we have a Q&A box. Please use that if you're able to put your questions in. But if you have any trouble with that, you can also use the chat box, and we'll be monitoring that throughout and trying to answer questions as we can. But also we'll have some Q&A time at the end of our webinar. So hoping to get to as many as we can. Next slide, Hannah. So just wanted to voice over the people who are going to be presenting to you today to talk about Summer EBT 101, how to support families in summer 2024. So that'll be myself, Chloe Eberhardt, and as well as Chioma Haustein, Elise Kolbosky, and Matthew Smith. Aspects of the program and all of your roles and helping ensure families have what they need to know about summer EBT this year. So next slide, and we can kind of dive into the details. We are talking about summer EBT, in some places known as Sunbucks. And it is a new permanent program that provides grocery benefits over the summer to eligible families with school-age children. This is a really exciting new program that's available, and it came to be because of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023. So that was authorized right at the end of 2022. And so summer EBT was first a pilot program that operated in a few states, and then a version of it kind of came out of the pilots during the pandemic EBT, which kind of operationalized it very fast, a version that is similar but not the same. And then this legislation passed. So now we have this great new permanent program that's available to families with children, with school-age children over the summer. So the Summer EBT provides $120 per child, and that amount varies in a few different states as well as territories. And so it's per child per summer on an electronic card, so an EBT card, to purchase food at places people normally shop. And then we also really want to be clear that children can participate in summer EBT and summer meals. So both programs can work together to support children to have the food they need over the summer. So next slide. So where are we at right now? So what you see on your screen is a picture of the states that are participating in states and territories and tribal or agencies that are participating in summer EBT this summer 2024. So summer EBT is expected to reach slightly over 21 million children this summer, which is really amazing. And so kind of where we stand right now is that most states that are planning to operate the program this summer have had their plans approved by the USDA. And so they're really in that stage of starting to implement and get the word out to families about the program and start to get ready to issue benefits. There's some states that have still yet to be approved for their plans, and they're kind of getting close and will probably be approved soon. And so just so you have a sense of this, this has all moved very fast. Just this past winter, at the end of December of 2023 was official guidance that came out from the USDA about the program. And then states needed to commit this past winter of whether or not they wanted to operate it. So super short timelines to get everything up and running, but it's so exciting to see so many be able to do that and provide this support to families. So next slide. So first want to ground in that this, everything I'm going to be sharing today and we're going to be sharing really is kind of from a nationwide perspective, but it's really important to ground in information and specifics to your particular state, territory, or tribal area, and make sure the information you're sharing with families is specific to where you are, because there's some differences that vary across the program based on where you are. We're going to talk more through those, but I wanted to kind of give that caveat right from the top. The other thing here is that we really want you to feel empowered to understand the differences that families will experience with accessing this program, because many school-age children will qualify and receive summer EBT benefits automatically. But some families that are just as eligible with children that are just as eligible will need to apply in order to receive the program. So that's kind of a really different experience than we typically see in many public benefit programs, and maybe different experience than families had during something that's fairly comparable like pandemic EBT. So generally, those that are children that are automatically eligible for summer EBT are approved for free or reduced price school meals by application, or because of a status like they are considered homeless, in foster care, or a migrant student, or they are school aged and in a household participating in a benefit program such as SNAP or food stamps. And school aged is defined by each state, so we'll talk through that a little bit later. So that's generally the group of children that are eligible for the program automatically and would receive benefits automatically. Other children are eligible for the program, but they will need to apply. So if they don't fall into the group that are automatically eligible, they would need to meet the income guidelines, which are linked here and we'll share out afterwards as well. And they would need to be enrolled in a school operating the National School Lunch Program or School Breakfast Program. And a note on this is that most public and charter schools and some private schools operate these programs, just as kind of a general guide. And one thing with the income guidelines is these guidelines follow the free and reduced price eligibility guidelines. And so those guidelines change every July 1st. So these income guidelines will be updated come July 1st, and that's the new income eligibility for the program this summer too. So know that change is going to happen, but these are the guidelines to meet the income guidelines. So when we're thinking about this is kind of the snapshot, the big picture, but I wanted to offer some details or differences compared to experiences that some people may have had before. So Hannah, can you go to the next slide? So just wanted to offer the comparison with pandemic EBT, because I'm sure many of you have experienced that program or supported families who have experienced that program. So first and foremost, summer EBT is a permanent program. I think that's super important to share. With pandemic EBT, eligibility changed and evolved as the pandemic changed and evolved. So things look different year to year. And when there were fully virtual settings versus hybrid settings, so that was very confusing. With summer EBT and the permanence of this program, eligibility will stay the same year after year. The program will stay and operate very similarly year to year. So that as we kind of get more on board with the program, that will feel more normalized there. And there's also stability with that. Another really big difference, I think that's very important, is that not all students in schools operating the community eligibility provision or schools where they serve free school meals to all without an application, not all students in this situation are eligible and will receive benefits automatically. So the difference is here that individual children have to qualify for the program. So there are students in those settings that might be receiving a public benefit. Oh, Hannah, I think we're seeing not the slides right now. Thanks. So there's students in those situations where they might be receiving a public benefit like SNAP, and they would be qualified automatically for the program. But we know that in these situations, there maybe not all of those students are captured in that way. So some students, it might be more likely that students may need to apply in situations like this. So that's one big difference with pandemic EBT. And then very young children, so before school aged, are not eligible for for summer EBT comparatively to pandemic EBT. And one thing to note here is that there may be programs like Head Start where kids are certified for free and reduced price school meals. And if those Head Start programs are operating or considered to be operating in a national school lunch program, school breakfast program, school, then those children are automatically eligible, even if we consider them kind of on the younger end of this. So I just wanted to point out that difference. In pandemic EBT, we saw that program be available for children, from 0 to 5 who were in kind of childcare settings. So that is not what summer EBT is aimed for. All right, next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, there are some really big differences across states. And so we really want to be grounded in what is going on in the area where you live and are. As we saw in that map at the beginning, not all states, territories, and eligible tribal agencies are operating the program this year. Links to the USDA Sunbuck Summer EBT site really provide a helpful picture of who is and who is not participating this year. As we mentioned, states are in, areas are in different stages of approval and implementing the program. So just know that's kind of the reality we're sitting in right now. Next slide. So really wanted to point out some of the real key differences across states. So you all are equipped with kind of looking for this information and being grounded in the reality for your community. So just want to emphasize and reiterate, it's important to share information specific to your state, territory, or tribal agency to really ground in what is available and what is true to your particular community. So some differences across states is that school age is defined differently from state to state. The link here provides a web page that the USDA has that shows kind of each state operating the program and includes a data point on what is considered school age. And that is a factor in who automatically qualifies because of the public benefit programs that are considered for automatic qualification. So that's an important thing to be knowledgeable about and grounded in for your area. Another difference across states is that programs that are considered for automatic issuance and eligibility, like SNAP, vary across states. All states are using the SNAP program. So food stamps, many are using TANA for cash assistance, but then there's differences. Some are using FDIPR, and some are using Medicaid, based on kind of the income eligible Medicaid. So there is variability in those programs, and that's important to know in terms of automatic issuance. The application process looks a little different for different states. So some states, the application is available now. Some don't have it available yet, but will have it soon. Others have kind of an online application with the ability to submit that way. Others might have a downloadable application that you need to fill out and mail or email in. And others are going through the free and reduced price eligibility application, or the using an alternative income or household income form going through school settings. So it's important to know what's going on for your community. And then what cards are being issued benefits on, and when benefits will be issued, those are varying across states. So some are using existing EBT cards for households that have them, such as those that are receiving SNAP. Others are using, maybe using a hybrid model where some are issuing in that way and then sending out new cards to those that don't have those cards already. Some are sending out all new summer EBT cards to all eligible families. Some are sending out those cards to each child that is individually eligible. And a very small number of states are issuing on past pandemic EBT cards as part of that mix of options. And then in terms of when folks are issuing, that's really varying state to state. Some states are starting to issue benefits now, and others will be doing in June, mid or late June. Others won't start until July, and some others later on in the summer into the early fall. Often we're seeing that a group of eligible students will be issued benefits automatically. Those automatically eligible students will be issued benefits first, sometimes in waves, and then those that are applying more on a rolling basis throughout the summer. So just want to note that this is why it's so critical to ground in state and area specific information. And then Hannah, next slide. We wanted to really, I know that's a lot of information, and we wanted to kind of ground in a specific example. So this is pulling in information from Michigan, and really what we want to showcase here is all of that we were just talking through, but as it applies to how the program is looking there. So in the situation we're showcasing here, children automatically get the benefit if they're approved for free or reduced price school meals because they applied through a school meals application. Children would be any age in that category. They're considered homeless, runaway, migrant, or in foster care, and attend a school that participates in the National School Lunch or School Breakfast program. Again, any age there. In a household that receives or that received at any time since July of 2023, since this past July, the SNAP program, TANA for cash assistance, FDIPR, and Medicaid if their income is at or below 185% of the federal poverty level, and their child is between 6 to 18 at any point, 6 to 18 years old at any point since July of 2023. So I'm going to pause there for a second because that is a mouthful there. But basically, if a child is in a household that is received or has received one of these programs at any time since last July and is between the ages of 6 and 18 at any point since last July, they qualify automatically to get this program and will receive benefits automatically. If a child is outside of that age range and they're in a school that operates the National School Lunch Program or the School Breakfast Program, and they have received any of those programs since July 2023, and they're any age, then they also would automatically get these benefits. So if that is not the situation for children there, then folks can apply for the program. And the qualifications for that is you're enrolled at any time since July of 2023 in a school that operates the National School Lunch or School Breakfast Program, and the household income is at or below 185% of the federal poverty level. Links included with that specific information. And then for Michigan, there are multiple ways to apply. You can contact your school to complete a school meals or summer EBT application, or you can fill out the education benefits form, which is in the case of schools operating the community eligibility provision, or you can download the paper application that's on their website and submit it via mail or email. And then there's a deadline to apply to receive benefits this summer, which is August 31st, there. So this kind of showcases all those points where how someone can qualify in this particular place. And we really wanted to showcase that to give you a sense of kind of what to be thinking about when talking about this program to families in your community. Next slide. And finally, before I pass this off to my colleague, Chioma, we wanted to really emphasize something very important about summer EBT and immigration status. So first and foremost, you do not need to be a U.S. citizen to qualify or apply for summer EBT. You do not need a social security number to apply for summer EBT and receive it. Applying for and receiving summer EBT does not affect the immigration status of your child or anyone in the family. This language, a lot of this language that is on this slide is pulled directly from the United States Department of Agriculture website. So you can feel confident that this is true about this program. And I'm going to turn it to Chioma to really walk us through some of the considerations with summer EBT as it intersects with immigration status.
Thank you, Chloe. Good to be all here. I'm good. Okay, good. So next slide. Thank you. Public charge and the impact on immigrant families. Now, well, before that, my name is Irma Hallenstein. I am a manager in the, of underfunded communities in the National Partnerships team here at Share Strength, No Kids Hungry. And just on this topic here, I'm not going to get too in the weeds on public charge, but I just want to call attention to what happened in 2019. So under the previous presidential administration, the rule was expanded, right? And when that was done, it caused massive amounts of fear and hunger in immigrant families, right? And it severely impacted them. So families, because of this, were choosing to prioritize immigration status over their basic needs, even if they needed to make more sacrifices or endure hardship. Now, in the current presidential administration under Biden, the rule was reversed, right? And additional protections were put in place just to ensure that immigrants know that housing, nutrition, and healthcare do not make you a public charge. But what was done, and fear continues to be felt to this day. And this is particularly important because 87% of children of immigrants are U.S. citizens, meaning that they may qualify for many of these benefits programs. And to continue to just hone in on just the damage that was done from 2019 and the expansion of the rule. 3 to 4 million children, according to the Urban Institute in 2022, were mixed status families, meaning that there was at least one U.S. citizen in that family. They avoided benefits programs in 2022. My sound is cutting out. Okay, 1 second. Are we hearing me better now?
I think you're back.
I'm so sorry, y'all. Boom. Okay, so I'm just gonna repeat what I said on the slide. I'm so sorry. So what I was mentioning was that in under Biden, the rule under public charge was reversed, and it made sure that healthcare, nutrition, and housing would not be considered a public charge for immigrant families. However, what was done under 2019, and it still caused massive effects of fear within the community. And this is particularly important because 87% of children of immigrants are US citizens, meaning that many of them are eligible for benefits programs. And though Biden reversed the rule, 3 to 4 million children, according to the Urban Institute in 2022, avoided benefits programs that they were eligible for due to immigration concerns. So undue fear and hunger still pervasive within the community. So what do? We were hearing this loud and clear from our partners about this need and what was being felt within immigrant communities. So we partnered with the Protecting Immigrant Families Coalition and BSP Research to conduct a series of 8 focus groups with 1,000 participants from AAPI, Latino, and Black immigrant families, just to learn more about what effective messages or words that work, as we call it, would help to mitigate fear and stigma when it comes to enrolling in these programs. So these 2 bullets that you see here on the left are what I guess scored more favorably across all immigrant groups, regardless of political leanings. So the first being food, shelter, and healthcare are basic human rights, underscoring that food is not a luxury, it is a right. And the second one, every family needs help sometimes, especially now, and millions of families are using government programs. This one right here, that second one, really hit towards stigma. And I'm sure many of you all are aware that stigma is a huge issue within immigrant communities. So these 2 points are what scored favorably, as I said, across all of the focus groups when it comes to just addressing that fear. When it comes to enrolling in programs, then I believe that they would be very helpful as you are engaging with families now around summer EBT. We also learned that key messengers within immigrant communities are immigration attorneys, government agencies, and people like themselves. Now, before I get into some more of what we did as an organization to address this need within immigrant communities, just want to equip you with some additional language. Now, I know when it comes to public charge, even for myself, it can, you can be a bit apprehensive talking about this like legal jargon, right? But I just want to give you like these 2 points here that you can absolutely with 100% belief and confidence as you're talking to immigrant families around summer EBT that you can say. So first, summer EBT or Sunbucks benefits do not count towards public charge at all. So in other words, you, as you're talking to families, you can let them know you or your children will not be deported, denied entry to the country, or denied permanent status because you apply for or receive summer EBT or Sunbucks for your children. And the second one mostly applies to just the way that you receive this money. So we had tapped in about that a little bit before. Some who might get that automatic issuance if they're in a free and reduced school, or if they are already receiving benefits, versus those who have to apply if they're like in a school that's CEP or has universal meals. Children are equally eligible.
regardless of whether families need to apply or receive benefits automatically. Okay, so I know public charge can be some heavy jargon, but you can stand 10 toes down that on these 2 points right here as you're engaging with families. Okay, to let them know that when you receive summer EBT, Sunbucks, it absolutely does not affect your immigration status in this country. And children, regardless of whether they need to apply or receive benefits automatically, are equally eligible. Right, switching gears a bit, back to just some more of what we have done. So next slide, thanks. We partnered with the Leah Zolman Center for Immigrant Health and 16 organizations across 4 border states, as you see here in orange, Arizona, California, Florida, and Texas, just to learn more. Okay, on the ground, what are people doing? What are these advocates doing? Community health workers doing to really get the message out about programs, to meet the need as far as educating families about the programs that they're eligible for, how it does not affect their immigration status. It won't count for, to them as being a public charge, and enrolling them. So here are some promising practices that we learned. Just ensuring low barriers to SNAP enrollment and food access, and meeting community members where they are, offering stigma-free services. And this could be some of the things that many of you are already doing. I know we have a lot of you who are in schools and working in schools. Distribution, canvassing, volunteering, hosting workshops, leveraging the relationships that you have with your school community and other CBOs in your community to hold events, school events, have mobile meal kits, just as different ways to continue to build relationships, bring the guard down when it comes to these touchy topics, and continue to educate families and help to lessen the confusion, when it comes to these programs, particularly summer EBT. Providing culturally responsive services and culturally relevant food, hiring and trusting community embedded bilingual staff and formadores, community health workers. It's so important having people in the community as you're engaging with specifically groups like immigrant communities who look like them, who speak their language, just have that cultural competency when engaging with families is super important, particularly in times like these. Discussing these programs that are new for many of them. And last, showing up consistently. Super important in immigrant communities that we found through this study. And I do want to acknowledge that this is a slow process to continue to build trust, to continue to educate and connect families. But these approaches have been proven to be very effective across communities in border states that have high populations of immigrant families. So I'm hoping that this, along with some more of what my colleagues are going to mention, will just help you to feel more equipped when you're engaging with families around summer EBT. Alrighty, I will pass it over to Matthew.
Hi, folks. My name is Matthew Smith. As Chloe mentioned, I'm a senior manager on our national partnerships team at Share Our Strengths No Get Hungry campaign. Next slide. I am going to be chatting with you a little bit about your roles. We know we have a lot of community-based organizations on the call. We know we have a lot of school districts, and other folks. So we kind of just wanted to give some high-level points about, the role that you play as summer EBT is being dispersed this summer for the first time. For community-based organizations, there's a variety of types in every community, whether it's a community center that's doing activities and community events. We know food banks are a large part of our presence today and part of the communities, as well as clubs and camps that students and kids may be going to, including any other housing and holistic care. Community-based organizations are really trusted resources in the community. This is where families are going, whether they need food or other types of assistance. And we know that your community members a lot more intimately than some others do. So, taking that role as a trusted messenger and using that to promote Sunbucks or summer EBT is certainly a big role to play this summer. whenever you think about, what do I tell? What do I say? As we've said, a lot of this information is state specific. So really getting in connection with your state agencies and seeing what resources they have available. A lot of states are starting to put out really simple graphics, whether it's flyers or digital media, things for social media, that really have kind of a quick overview. Sunbucks is here, it's available in our state, and this is where you can go for questions. They have hotlines. A lot of states have hotline numbers for folks to be able to call and to ask the questions that they're wondering about. And having that available in your space can be really helpful for families. And this can be done in a variety of ways, whether it's on your community board that you have or regular social media posts, as families are coming to you for this information. This is a really great way that you can kind of spread the word about the Sunbucks program. I'd also just like to mention, the work that community organizations do together. We know that a lot of organizations in each community work alongside each other to kind of meet the needs of the community, whether it's referring folks to another organization, providing direct service, or making sure that they know about certain resources that are happening at other organizations throughout the community. So really connecting with your fellow leaders in the community to make sure that you're providing the best amount of information and resources about summer EBT during the summer. Some organizations may be able to take the candle as kind of the knowledge experts, thinking about food banks or other organizations that provide direct services, and they may be a good opportunity for you to connect with as you're thinking about your community. We also know that a lot of community-based organizations are summer meal sites. So using this time throughout the summer as meals are being distributed, if you're a public library or other types of clubs or camps that are running these meal sites, that connection with food is a great place as well. Next slide. So the role of schools. We know there are quite a few school stakeholders on the line, and there are certainly a variety of ways that schools play into summer EBT. On one hand, schools have this duty to make sure that the program is running effectively and smoothly with all of the data information that is needed for state agencies. When we think about free and reduced price meal applications, alternative income forms, and other types of this data that we're collecting from students to make sure that these students can be automatically or directly certified for the program. That's all information that state agencies need. So really building that relationship with state agencies. We know that a lot of this work is done between the local education agency and state agencies. So figuring out that point person who is running that connection is really helpful in this process. And as that information begins to flow, often with the administration of schools and school districts, we know that it can kind of be delegated a variety of ways throughout the school system. So school nutrition staff may be on point for a lot of the data collection needs whenever it comes to free or reduced price applications. So making sure that there's a tight bond between your school administration or your LEA and your school food authority to make sure that the line of communication is happening to make sure that the directly certified students that information is being given. We also have to think about the role that educators and other family-facing and student-facing staff play in this. Whenever we think about outreach and enrollment of the program or awareness, we know that educators sometimes are on the front lines with parents, and this is an important link in the chain to make sure that all of these parts of the school system are working together as the information is coming from state agencies, getting distributed through school nutrition staff, and adding those partners in of those educators and family-facing staff to make sure that that connection is happening throughout the system. We know that a lot of questions from families will be coming to schools, and I think that's another piece of these resources that states are developing. As there are hotlines available that may be able to answer questions more applicably than family-facing school staff, having those opportunities ready for families to get more in-depth questions answered is a really important role that schools play as well whenever they're interacting with families. And just being aware of how the state is running the program, particularly if it's available in your state, and reminding folks of some of the key issues around summer EBT, which I will talk about as we move into the next slide. Really, we want to start, thinking about what families need to know. And me and my colleague Elise are going to cover a lot of these questions here, right? We want to make sure that families know that this is a new permanent program providing grocery benefits in the summer. Because it's a new program, we really think that the awareness needs to be promoted. So we want to make sure that parents know it's a new permanent program. You also want to make sure that they know if they're going to receive the program automatically or if they need to apply and how. As Chloe went through some of the eligibility pieces, thinking about if they're going to be able to get those benefits automatically, or if they need to submit an application and figuring out how the state is handling that application process. Also reiterating that immigration status is not considered for eligibility, and then thinking about some of the logistics, how to update their mailing address, generally when the benefits will be issued, and also the need to use the benefits within 4 months. So now I will pass it to my colleague, Elise.
Thank you, Matthew. My name is Elise Kowalski. I am on the program innovation team at Share Strength. And I am hoping that we can work together to get as many folks that are eligible access to this benefit this summer with as little stress as possible. And thank you so much for being here and helping to do this work. So I wanted to talk through specifically some questions and concerns to prepare for if you are in a role where you will be getting these questions from folks. And there have been a lot of questions around this. To answer any of these questions from parents, you will need some state-specific information. When we follow up after the webinar, we will point you to some good resources for finding that information. Often it is your state's Summer EBT or Sunbox website. We've pulled together a quick tool that we think will be helpful for advocates like yourselves that just has a list of all the key information that we think that will be needed, for answering questions in your state. And there's a new website that was lifted up in the chat, summerebt.org, that families can also use to assess eligibility. So some of these questions. 1, do I need to apply for summer EBT? How do I know? So this is going to vary, and part of this is understanding those programs that are automatically qualifying and enrolling folks in your state or tribe or territory. So part of it is being familiar with that and what that process will look like in your state. For those that do not receive the benefit automatically, should they apply? There are kind of 2 important pieces of information. One is their income, whether their household meets the income threshold, which that link will be in our materials as well referenced. And the other is, does my child's school operate the National School Lunch Program or School Breakfast Program? Because you saw when Chloe went over kind of the eligibility criteria, that was important and a necessary criteria for folks that needed to apply. And some of you might already know the answer to that. If not, many states have included some guidance or made a list available on their website, like in the FAQs. And if you're not sure, but you work, in a specific district or school area, you can reach out to them and just confirm that they operate that program. Again, as Chloe said, if it's a public or charter school, they most likely do, as well as some private schools. Then there's some kind of specific questions. I was receiving SNAP earlier in the school year, but I'm not right now. Do I need to apply? In that case, for example, someone just needs to have been receiving SNAP at some point since July 2023, and then they should receive summer EBT automatically. So that person should not need to apply. For families who do receive summer EBT automatically, and I'm going to lift up a couple of concerns that I think you might hear, and I think these are especially important for immigrant households. So for those of you that are serving lots of immigrant households, I want to kind of especially draw your attention here. Why did I receive this card? So for folks that are getting a new card or might be receiving extra funds on an existing card, make sure that you're able to articulate to them why they might have received this, why they would have received it automatically. For example, if their child was approved for free and reduced meals at school through an application, for example. Could this affect my immigration status? We've talked about that already, but for folks who kind of get this unexpectedly, a lot of those folks are going to have questions about that. So be ready to field those questions. For families who don't receive summer EBT automatically, there will be some folks who said, I think I should have received summer EBT already, but I haven't. What should I do? Does this mean I'm not eligible? So part of this is around being familiar with the timeline of when benefits will be issued in your state. So if you know that benefits haven't been issued yet, and this person, understands themselves that they should have received it automatically, you can let them know when that date is, and to be on the lookout for their benefits if they're coming in the mail or on a card that they might already have. If you know that that date has already passed, then that date of automatic rate issuance has already passed and someone thinks they should have received summer EBT, that is a time to encourage them to apply, for sure. I'm going to pause for a second because I know the translation might be needing to catch up. And then another question you might get, are you sure I need to apply? Everyone I know got it automatically. I must not be eligible. Because the majority of folks will get this automatically, it is likely that folks will see many of their friends, relatives getting it. And we want to kind of dispel the myth that someone might not be eligible just because they haven't gotten it automatically. So make sure that you are clear with those folks that they should check and apply themselves if they meet that income threshold and are at a school participating in NSLP or SBP. Next slide. Some other questions and concerns to prepare for, just around receiving and using benefits. I've moved. How can I update my mailing address? Different states have different ways that you can do this. It is often listed on their website. In many cases, it depends how a person got the benefits. If it was through a free and reduced meal application at school, it's often updating it through the school. If it's because of a benefit they already receive, it is often updating through the program, that other benefit program that they're already receiving. When will I get my summer EBT benefits? Again, that's one of those data points that will point you to some helpful information there after the webinar, but be familiar with that date or those dates for your state. How to replace a lost card. And I just wanted to flag for the few states that are issuing on to some folks on pandemic EBT cards. And this is not an exhaustive list, but I know in Maine, in New York, in Wisconsin, they're planning to issue to some folks on PEBT cards. Those folks might very reasonably have gotten rid of their pandemic EBT card. So instead of waiting, make sure you help those folks understand that they, what the process would be for replacing a lost card. And again, that information will generally be on your state's website. When and where can I use these summer EBT benefits? Typically, with some exceptions, it's where your family, where families can use their SNAP benefits, farmers markets, stores, online ordering. What should I do with the cards I received benefits on this summer? How states are issuing and how they plan to issue next summer varies by state, but generally, we want you to encourage folks to hold on to their cards in case it will be a card that they'll be issued benefits on again next summer. And then lastly, troubleshooting. Where can I get help? And just kind of distinguishing between problems with like activating a card. Typically, there's a number on the back of the card. If someone already has their benefits card, and there's an issue with using it, there will be a number to call for that. And then a separate hotline for other things related to eligibility, or if someone hasn't gotten their benefits yet. Next slide. So a lot of people asked a question when they registered for the webinar along the lines of, what is the best thing that I can do to make sure people have access to this program? So here are 3 things that I want to encourage you all to do. First, learn about the program in your state, who should be receiving it automatically, and who will likely need to apply, and try to understand those categories. Second, find out when automatic issuance is happening in your state. So those children that are receiving summer EBT automatically, and on which cards. That can help you to prepare families. And then third, help people understand whether or not they need to apply. The easiest time to do that is once automatic issuance has happened. So if you know that that has already happened in your state or is going to be happening in the next couple weeks, be aware of that. And then after that, encourage families who haven't received but are likely eligible to apply at that time. Or families that should have received it automatically. Maybe they're families that have received SNAP at some point this year, or they're homeless, migrant, and foster care. You know that they should have gotten it automatically, but perhaps something went wrong. Also encourage those folks to apply. And so just check in with the families that you're interacting with and make sure that accurate information is circulating. Next slide. So just to wrap things up, and then we only have a few minutes for questions, sorry. Here's just a list of a handful of resources. And again, we'll be sharing this out in an email to everyone that registered. But here you have links to the USDA site, to a No Kid Hungry site for families that we've put together, some information for organizations, some of which we kind of put together based on the questions that you all sent in anticipation of this webinar. A couple of Summer EBT PSAs from some Latino celebrities from No Kid Hungry that you're welcome to use on social media and might help really get the word out. And then a few pieces that focus on effective messaging and kind of building trust in programs like Summer EBT. And with that, I think we will turn it to a few minutes of questions.
Elise, I want to lift up one question we had, which is something we didn't flag in kind of the overview. Just want to make clear. So there is a very specific timeline for when benefits will be available on the cards for families to use. So it's 122 days after that the benefits are available once they're issued on a card. So that's a very specific number, but essentially that rolls out to 4 months. And so families do need to use those benefits before the end of the 4 months, which is a little different than SNAP and other programs that maybe families might be familiar with. So that's an important point to lift up, that there's kind of a shorter window of time to use these summer EBT benefits. I also want to answer Lori's question out loud about graduating seniors. So if there's someone, a child, teen who was free status during school and they just graduated this past spring, they are eligible for summer EBT to be provided with benefits. Whether or not they would get them automatically or would need to apply, they'd still fall within that eligibility guidelines. And I see a question about the 122 days. When does it start? That starts when the benefits are put on the card. So that's really important. That's not when someone gets it and starts using them, but when they're put on the card. So that may take some time to get to someone in the mail, things like that. So definitely encouraging benefits in that card to know about that timeline so you can use them in a shorter amount of time. And I know we have lots of questions coming in. I don't know, Elise, if there's anything.
Yeah, I was gonna
get
just try to knock out a couple of them really quickly, but it's moving so fast that I can't see it. But the summer cutoff for applying, that varies by state. And tomorrow we're gonna be sending out a spreadsheet that has, for all the states that we have that information, what the deadline is for applying. So that is gonna vary by state, but we will get that information to you. Is it use all the benefits or at least use some in 4 months? It's use all the benefits. It's not like if you just use a little bit of it, then you can keep going. Works differently there. Like then, for example, your PEBT card did. And there was a question on is everyone getting a new summer EBT card? That is another thing that is differing by state. Some states are issuing new summer EBT cards to every child. There are lots of different permutations. Some states are issuing benefits on some existing SNAP cards or other EBT cards that families have, and they're issuing new cards to folks that don't already have one of those. It really varies by state. Again, we will there's a column in the spreadsheet that has that detail for you.
I'm also seeing some state specific, Georgia and Florida, I believe. They are not currently participating in the program, although we are hopeful as we move into the future years that we can do advocacy work to pursue getting that benefit available for those states.
There's a question about what you can use the benefits on. So summer EBT benefits can be used to purchase food. And if folks are familiar, they're used to purchase the same items that can be purchased with SNAP. For some of the specific programs operating through tribal agencies, they operate as a WIC benefit, so there are a little bit of differences there, but that's a fairly specific situation. I'll also add that we didn't really lift this up during the presentation, but most of the benefits in most places are being issued as one lump sum. So $120 per child one time. So given to the families to use right away all the benefits together. So we're not really seeing them be issued like $40 per month as another example of that.
A number of folks have asked if participants will be notified in some way. And so, yes, right, because some people will just be automatically receiving on their card. They should be receiving a letter in the mail alerting them that this benefit is coming. At the address that the program that qualified them automatically has. So if that mailing address is wrong, then they might not get that letter. It's a good reason to encourage folks to make sure their mailing addresses are up to date.
To the question about farmers markets, if your farmers market is an eligible retailer for SNAP, then they will also accept some EBT benefits.
I saw did we already answer this? Someone asked a question about, we're getting a lot of questions from families about why benefits aren't being issued until much of the way through the summer. And I don't think we answered that. That is, in many cases, just about this being the first summer that the program is getting off the ground. And so some states have already started to issue benefits, but in a lot of states, it is just kind of where they're at the time with the timeline, and next summer it likely will be earlier. A number of questions about will the cards be per family or per student. That also is differing by state. And will they be in the student's or parent's name? Similarly, many are issuing in student's name, but for example, if they are getting it on their SNAP card, it will under their parent's name, then, you know, it'll be on that card.
Well, I know that we're 5 minutes over the allotted time that we all had planned to spend together, and I know that we're still getting a couple of questions, but we'll be able to review the questions that are coming through after the fact and be able to provide some of those answers in the follow-up information as well. As Elise mentioned, there are a lot of resources coming with the follow-up of this webinar, so be on the lookout for those and be on the lookout for how they can direct you to your state-specific information. Really happy to have you all here together with us today. Thanks for joining, and thanks to my colleagues for presenting.